May 1941. Germany is on the ascendant. Forces of the Third Reich have all of Western Europe is under their control. North Africa is on the verge of being overrun. The island of Crete, recently seized in a daring airborne operation. The Führer is weeks away from the defining act of his global strategic ambition. Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of Russia. Only continued British resistance keeps the full might of his army, air force and navy from being deployed against the USSR. And all that keeps Britain from starvation and capitulation are supplies from Canada and neutral USA. U-boats have wreaked havoc, sinking 10,000 tons of shipping a month. But now, the Germans have their sights on a knockout blow to cripple the transatlantic merchant fleet with a concentrated destruction of convoys using battleships. They've already tested the theory. March 1941, Operation Berlin used two mighty battleships, Scharnhorst and Gneisenau, to destroy and capture 22 merchant vessels without loss. Now, with Barbarossa just weeks away, mastermind of the Berlin operation, Admiral Günther Lutyens, is tasked with a repeat operation, but on an even bigger and more decisive scale. Operation Rheinübung will be the concentrated hammer blow to force Britain out of the war. Lutyens' ambition is to add to the range and power of Scharnhorst and Gneisenau with the brand new state-of-the-art Tirpitz and her sister ship Bismarck, the most powerful battleships ever constructed. But Lutyens has two problems. After Operation Berlin, they know the Royal Navy will anticipate a repeat raid and deploy their entire Atlantic fleet to try and stop them. The second problem is more serious. Tirpitz's crew is still being trained, while Bismarck has never been tested in battle. Scharnhorst is in the middle of refitting, and Gneisenau has just been attacked and half sunk in Brest Harbor by British aircraft. Lutyens wants to delay the raid until Scharnhorst and Tirpitz are ready. But that won't be until July, after the invasion of Russia has begun. Unacceptable to the Führer. Lutyens is ordered to proceed with just the two ships he has, the untested Bismarck, supported by the cruiser Prinz Eugen. Bismarck is the most formidable weapon in the German Navy. 240 meters long and at 49,000 tons, she is also one of the fastest, capable of 30 knots, and armed with 8 15-inch guns, one of the deadliest. At 212 meters long, Prinz Eugen looks only slightly smaller, but is half the weight of Bismarck, and with 8 8-inch guns, has much less formidable firepower. Bismarck and Prinz Eugen, plus 3 destroyers, lie low in Norway, ready to venture into the North Atlantic. Lutyens knows the British naval base in Scapa Flow is between him and his ultimate destination, an area of the Atlantic between Allied Greenland and Iceland, where the convoys will be furthest from air support. These will be Lutyens' hunting grounds. That night, a single RAF Spitfire slips through Lutyens' air defences and takes a decisive photograph of the Bismarck at anchor. At Scapa Flow, a task force is hurriedly assembled under Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland to intercept and destroy the Germans before they can reach the convoys. But the Germans realise they've been rumbled. The next day, when a Royal Navy aircraft flies over the same fjord, it finds it empty of ships. Bismarck and Prinz Eugen have slipped the net. The British are caught on the hop. At midnight that night, Vice Admiral Holland leads his task force out in hot pursuit. Holland has more ships than Lutyens, but only 4 capable of catching Bismarck. The state-of-the-art battleship King George V, the old battle cruiser Repulse with aircraft carrier Victorious are blocking a breakout through the Iceland Faroes Gap, leaving Holland 2 capital ships supported by cruisers and destroyers to form his pursuit fleet. Built in 1939, Prince of Wales is the newest battleship in the British fleet, 227 metres long and 45,000 tons. Her main armament are 10 powerful new 14-inch guns, and with a top speed of 30 knots, she is a fast and formidable weapon. But Prince of Wales's turrets have had teething problems, and she sets sail without being fully battle-ready, with civilian workmen on board. On paper, Holland's most formidable weapon is his flagship HMS Hood, pride of the Royal Navy. When she was built at the height of World War I, Hood was a brand new concept in warship design, the battlecruiser, combining the speed of a cruiser with the size and firepower of a battleship. At 46,000 tons, with 8 15-inch guns and a speed of 32 knots. But to gain her speed, she has sacrificed heavy armor on her decks, making her vulnerable to a falling shot fired from distance. Holland is confident Hood is capable of knocking out the Germans in a straight fight. But first, he has to find them. Lutyens knows the Royal Navy will be guarding the most direct routes to the Atlantic. But he has a head start on his pursuers, and so takes a safer, northerly route towards his hunting grounds. To reach them, Lutyens' ships must pass through a 180-mile wide gap called the Denmark Strait. And that gap is constricted by pack ice and British minefields, leaving a navigable channel just 40 miles wide. Holland knows about this bottleneck and has planned ahead. He sends 2 British cruisers, HMS Norfolk and Suffolk, as lookouts to patrol either edge of the narrow strip of water, while Holland leads his task force to cut off their exit route to the Atlantic. Making their way from North America, heading for the Atlantic, are 11 convoys, including a troop convoy of 20,000 men. Lutyens' orders are to sink merchant ships, not get into battle with a larger British force. He knows if he can slip into the Atlantic undetected, his enemy will have a hard time finding and catching him before he can wreak havoc on the convoys. What Lutyens doesn't know is that the Royal Navy is waiting for him. As the last light in the sky is fading, a lookout on board Suffolk sees the 2 German behemoths as they materialize out of a heavy snowstorm. Just 7 miles away, well within gun range. Suffolk immediately transmits a sighting report to the Admiralty, before quickly turning away toward the coast of Iceland and into a fog bank to avoid a suicidally unequal battle. Suffolk then comes astern of the German ships to shadow them on radar. On board Bismarck, German radio operators pick up the sighting report from Suffolk and advise their own high command. Admiral Lutyens is shocked he's been discovered so easily and has little intelligence on what size of force he might be facing. Meanwhile, Norfolk approaches from the east. Bismarck's captain, Lindemann, opens fire on Norfolk from just 6 miles. One shell from Bismarck's 15-inch guns bounces off the ocean surface and hits Norfolk's bridge. The blast disables Norfolk's forward radar. Like Suffolk, she races for the fog bank and safety. 300 miles to the southeast, the message is received by Holland. Bismarck sighted and leading the Prinz Eugen. But unknown to Holland, that order is crucially about to change. The percussion from Bismarck's opening salvo, her first fired in action, has knocked out Bismarck's own forward-looking radar. So Lutyens orders Prinz Eugen to take the lead, to act as pathfinder for the fleet. Suffolk, following at a safe distance, is now the only eyes on the German fleet for Admiral Holland. Those eyes are radar only, 2 indistinct marks on a screen. On board Hood, using Suffolk's report, Holland plans a classic intercept. He will get ahead of the Germans and turn across their path, a tactic called crossing the T. It will allow him to bring all 8 of his 15-inch guns and all 10 of Prince of Wales's 14-inch guns to bear on the front of the approaching enemy, which he assumes to be Bismarck. Bismarck, in turn, will only be able to use her front 4 15-inch guns, and Prinz Eugen, none of hers. Holland communicates his plan for both Hood and Prince of Wales to engage Bismarck, leaving Norfolk and Suffolk to take care of Prinz Eugen. But then, shortly after midnight, Suffolk loses contact with the Germans, her radar blinded by a dense snowstorm. Holland fears he may lose his target altogether and turns on a new heading to try and close the gap faster. At 2 in the morning, with still no news, Holland turns southwest, hoping to cut off the enemy. An hour later, Suffolk re-sights the 2 German ships, Bismarck apparently leading Prinz Eugen on the same course and speed as before. Holland realizes his maneuver has lost time and the chance to get ahead of his enemy and cross their T. Not wanting a night engagement, Holland brings his ships onto a course to intercept the German squadron at first light. Prince of Wales sights the 2 German ships on her radar. Prinz Eugen has already picked up the sound of ships with her underwater detection gear 20 miles to the southeast. Then, First Artillery Officer, Kapitän Leutnant Paulus Jasper, confirms the sightings and judges the targets to be cruisers. Prinz Eugen's captain, Helmut Brinkmann, tells Leutjens about the hostile ships. Only light cruisers, 20 degrees off the port bow. At the same time, Prince of Wales makes visual contact at a range of 38,000 yards. The distance is too great to determine which ship is in the lead, but they assume it is Bismarck. The Germans are still in doubt about the identity of the enemy ships. Brinkmann and Jasper maintain they are only dealing with cruisers. However, others are convinced that they are facing at least one battleship. Leutjens is under orders to avoid contact with British battleships, but orders his men to general quarters. The distance between Holland and his targets is down to 26,000 yards, but he needs to get closer as quickly as possible. He knows an exchange of fire at long range will expose Hood to a potentially fatal vulnerability, plunging fire hitting his lighter deck armor. Holland needs to pass through the critical zone as fast as possible. He orders a turn of 20 degrees to close on the Germans faster. This move prevents the British using their rear turrets, but Holland still has 10 heavy guns to Bismarck's 8. Holland signals Prince of Wales captain John Leach to stay close and follow his every move. He still believes the lead ship is his prize target, Bismarck. Hood opens fire with her 4 forward 15-inch guns. The target ship is, in fact, Prinz Eugen. On Bismarck, the puzzled Lindemann wonder why the British are targeting the smaller ship instead of them. On Prince of Wales, Captain Leach correctly identifies the right-hand ship as Bismarck. He ignores Holland's order and opens fire with his 6 forward 14-inch guns at a distance of 26,500 yards, but without a hit. Then, number 1 gun in A turret fails to fire, leaving her only 5 forward guns. Holland finally realizes that Bismarck is behind Prinz Eugen and orders a shift of target to the right-hand ship. However, this order is never executed, and Hood continues to fire at Prinz Eugen. The German guns remain silent. Bismarck's first gunnery officer, Adalbert Schneider, requests permission to open fire. He receives no reply and calls the bridge. The British fire their 3rd and 4th salvos without a hit, but closing. Still no answer from Leutjens. Bismarck remains steadily on course. But now Holland suddenly changes tactics in the middle of the fight. He turns his ships broadside to broadside. This maneuver reveals the silhouettes of both his ships to the Germans. The Germans now identify the battlecruiser Hood and the battleship Prince of Wales. The sight of the 2 British ships confounds Leutjens. German intelligence has reported both to be still in port. Their appearance in the Denmark Strait could mean only one thing: his operation had long been discovered. More British ships would certainly follow, and could be just over the horizon. Lutyens hoists the fire signal. JD. Jot Dora. Brinkmann responds at once, and Prinz Eugen opens fire on Hood from 22,100 yards, but scores no hits. Finally, Bismarck's 15-inch guns roar into action as Lutyens returns fire on Hood at a distance of 24,100 yards, but the shells fall ahead of the target. Hood fires her fourth salvo at Prinz Eugen, again with no hits. Prince of Wales fires her fifth salvo against Bismarck from a distance of 22,100 yards. Prince of Wales's sixth salvo, at a distance of 21,150 yards, scores the first hit on Bismarck. The shell tears through her portside bow, penetrating through the ship and exiting the starboard bow. The damage causes a huge oil leak and flooding of the forward compartments. At exactly the same time, Prinz Eugen scores a first hit on HMS Hood. The shot lands between the second funnel and the main mast near stores of anti-aircraft ammunition and anti-aircraft rockets, starting a fire. Hood fires her fifth and sixth salvos against Prinz Eugen. All miss. Prince of Wales fires her seventh and eighth salvos against the Bismarck. Again, all miss. Bismarck's third salvo hits Hood's fire control tower, killing most of the men inside. Hood is now without central fire control. A shell from Prinz Eugen's sixth salvo lands near the base of the forward superstructure, starting a second fire. The distance between the German and British ships is now down to 19,700 yards. This allows Bismarck to use her three port 5.9-inch guns, while Prince of Wales' four starboard 5.25-inch guns can now also join the battle. But it is Prince of Wales' ninth 14-inch salvo which scores another hit on the Bismarck. The shell explodes against the 45mm armoured bulkhead below the waterline amidships. This causes flooding in the No. 4 port electric plant and No. 2 boiler room. Bismarck is now leaking a conspicuous quantity of oil. 5 minutes after the start of the battle, Lutyens orders Prinz Eugen to target Prince of Wales, firing her sixth and last salvo at Hood, while Bismarck fires her fourth salvo at Hood. None of the shells find their target. Prince of Wales prepares to use her Y turret, but one of the guns malfunctions. Meanwhile, above the battle, a short Sunderland flying boat arrives from Iceland. The crew observe two fires on Hood, one at the base of the bridge structure and another further aft. Though burning and without full fire control, Hood fires her eighth and ninth salvos against Prinz Eugen, but misses. Prinz Eugen fires her eighth and ninth salvos at Prince of Wales. Again, no hits are scored. Prince of Wales fires her 13th salvo and scores a third hit on Bismarck, but the shell fails to explode. Hood fires a 10th salvo at Prinz Eugen. The distance now down to 15,300 yards. But Hood fails to score a hit. Holland orders another 20-degree turn to port. Bismarck fires her fifth salvo at Hood. 1 minute later, Hood is ripped apart by a sudden and cataclysmic explosion. Only 3 men survive: Ordinary Signalman Ted Briggs, able seaman Robert Tilburn, and midshipman William John Dundas. The rest of Hood's crew of 1,418 men are lost, including Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland. No one knows exactly what caused the catastrophic, near-instant destruction of a 48,000-ton battleship. The long-held assumption is that a 15-inch shell from Bismarck went through Hood's thin deck armour and hit her magazines. However, by 6 a.m., Hood was only 17,000 yards from Bismarck. At that distance, heavy shells from both sides were traveling on a lower trajectory. Any shell would strike Hood's belt armor, 12 inches thick and superior to any ship in the fleet. Another possibility is that a shell detonated Hood's own torpedoes. 4 21-inch Mark IV torpedoes were kept in tubes, 2 on either side of the main mast. These were certainly capable of breaking Hood's back, and could have been set off either by a direct hit from an enemy shell or by an intense fire. Whatever the cause, the reaction on board Prince of Wales is utter shock. Leading sick berth attendant Sam Wood recalls, "She disappeared into a big orange flash and a huge pall of smoke which blackened us out. The bows pointed out of the smoke, just the bows tilted up, and then this whole apparition slid out of sight, all in slow motion, just slid away. Within just 3 minutes, the mighty Hood, pride of the Royal Navy, is gone. Prince of Wales is on her own against the mighty Bismarck and Prinz Eugen. She had been about 1,000 yards behind Hood when she blew up. To avoid ploughing into debris, Leach orders hard turn to starboard. But her aft turrets can no longer bear on the enemy, and several of her forward guns are out of action. On board Bismarck, Lutyens orders a change of target to Prince of Wales. Bismarck hits Prince of Wales on her command tower. The shell fails to explode, but its impact kills the crew inside. Realizing his perilous situation, Captain Leach ceases fire, disengages with evasive maneuvers, and turns to port. Prince of Wales lays a smokescreen, but a shell from Bismarck's salvo still manages to hit her below the waterline. Miraculously, it fails to explode, but Prince of Wales is now increasingly at the mercy of the 2 German ships. Prinz Eugen fires her 16th and 17th salvos. Again, Prince of Wales is hit in the stern below the waterline. All her return fire falls short. Bismarck scores another hit on Prince of Wales, destroying her portside crane and service boats. Prinz Eugen fires her 18th salvo, scoring 2 more hits on Prince of Wales. One hits the stern below the waterline. Another shell hits the 4th 5.25-inch turret ammunition storage on the port side. Luckily, the shell fails to explode. Prince of Wales fires her 20th salvo from Y turret at 16,400 yards. But it's not much of a salvo. 3 out of 4 guns are out of action, and only 1 shell is fired. The shot falls short of Bismarck's stern. Suddenly, the Germans change course, making a 50-degree turn to port. Bismarck's captain, Lindemann, wants to finish off the Prince of Wales, but Lutyens will not pursue the British battleship. He doesn't know how many more British ships are on their way to avenge the Hood. What he does know is that Prince of Wales has put a shot through Bismarck's bow. She is trailing a giant oil slick and has lost 1,000 tons of precious fuel. His convoy hunting mission is over. His only option is to race for the safe French port of Saint-Nazaire and hope he gets there before the British catch up with him. To the southeast, on board the battleship King George V, Admiral Tovey is already assembling a strike force to find and destroy the Bismarck. The cruiser Sheffield, battlecruiser Renown, the aircraft carrier Ark Royal, and 6 more destroyers are added to Tovey's fleet. It is the largest single fleet of the war so far. 6 battleships, 3 battle cruisers, 2 aircraft carriers, 16 cruisers, 33 destroyers, and 8 submarines.